All right, and we're COMP1011, and it's Advanced Object-Oriented Programming. It's week 10, lesson 10, part 1. And what we're doing is, today we're talking about assignment number 5 a little bit, and then we're moving into some builds that we're going to do for assignment 5. I got to prepare you for assignment 5 and for the end. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. So let us take a look at our courses right now. Where we sit right now with this stuff is we have we did our assignment. We've already handed out assignment 4, and we did a bit of a setup with assignment with last week and the week before. We did some Android stuff, and we did a bit of a welcome app last week with a button. Today I'm giving you assignment 5, and assignment 5 is actually your first independent assignment to create an app with Android. And you're going to be creating a BMI calculator. Let's take a look and see what that means. And what this thing is worth.
Is that like body mass index?
Yeah. It's like an advanced calculator of some sort, or a customized calculator. This is due April 3rd, which means it's week 12, right? It's worth 15% of your mark, or your final mark, right? It's going to be, what you do is you're going to create a BMI calculator that allows a user to enter their weight and height, and whether they're entering their values in imperial or metric units, whatever they have a choice, and then they can calculate and display the user's body mass index. The app should also display the following information from the Department of Health and Human Services, kind of thing. It's underweight, less than 18.5. So if you're underweight, they put their body mass index, it says underweight. If they're normal, overweight, and obese. So somewhere on the app, it should print these things out. It should show these or display them. And here's the formula for the BMI, which you gotta use. It's very, very simple. It's your weight in pounds times 703 divided by height in inches times height in inches, right? Or your weight in kilograms divided by your height in inches times your height in meters. Or sorry, your height in meters times your height in meters. All right, so you can use these formulas in your code to figure out the person's BMI. So it's pretty straightforward. One calculation, basically. Okay, and some kind of switch statement to determine if they're underweight or overweight. Right? Very, very simple. So the programming behind the app is simple. That's not the issue. It's not the programming or the logic. It's creating your UI. This is what the exercise is. Creating the UI to my specifications that I've asked you to do. So if you notice, it says create a UI that includes the following components. Use a table layout, which we're going to talk about today. Right? A button to allow the user to toggle between imperial or metric units. Right? A text view with a text value of my height. Right? So each of these things has a marks again. Right? An edit text that that allows the user to put his height in inches or meters. You kind of input that, right? A text view. All these things are different controls, right? And so on. And once you're done all that, it says these are all the things that happen. Now, one thing I didn't mention is you need to make sure that there's some user input validation that takes place here. That's the only other thing you got to take care of. How do I do input validation with when I enter stuff into text boxes? So very straightforward app. You're going to make a BMI app. You're going to have some internal documentation here, a little bit of external documentation, just your company logo, a little bit of a brief description of what it does. I need a sketch, a wireframe of your app, what it's going to look like, and then finally a screenshot of your app, right? So show me what it looks like, and if that means if you're running it live on your own Android phone, take a picture of your Android phone and show me what it is, right? If you've got an Android phone, if you're actually running it. Of course, share your files on GitHub, and that's really it in a nutshell. Here's some optional features: a splash screen, which you can figure out how to do. A colorful progress bar that changes in proportion to the user's BMI. Right? Some kind of progress bar control. A reset button that resets the screen to its original state. So some easy marks to get some bonus. And really that's it in a nutshell. I want you to give me a Word document or PDF, zip everything up, all your Android project files, all of them, your whole project, and then give me a link to your GitHub, and we're good to go. Any questions about this? It's a really straightforward app, and if you want to look and see some they do have some available for you already that you can model after. So if I say BMI App for Android, right, and I want to look at some of them and see what they look like. Here's one where they have they ask you for your age, your height, and weight, and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of give you screens on what this looks like. Now this looks like almost like a, instead of a portrait, it's a landscape view, right? Very straightforward. And they also have other ones. Here's a BMI calculator, free. Another BMI calculator here, so to see how these things look. So there's lots of description on how this, or lots of option and opportunities on what this looks like. Let's look at some other ones. I actually looked at some images here, which is what I really want. Okay, that's not necessary. You don't have to do this. But the idea here is something like this. Here's your weight, here's your height, here's your kilograms or pounds. Calculate, and then kind of do this thing. So it's very, very straightforward. It's not like it hasn't been done before. It's almost like doing a calculator, but it's you learning the UI. So it's going to give you a couple of weeks to putz around with the UI, the Android app, and to do Android app development. Right? Really, that's what I want you to do. If you can get that done, we can move on to more serious and more awesome things. Okay? Any questions around this? It's pretty straightforward. It's not that crazy, and it is worth 15%, so it's a good opportunity for you guys to learn how to do this stuff. No questions?
It's not just a Java app.
Android app. Okay, so you have to use Android, the Android SDK, the Android ADT. Some people ask me in an email if it's possible that they can use Android Studio because they don't like the way Eclipse works. I won't be teaching Android Studio. It's a whole different IDE. Right? But if you really hate Eclipse and you want to try Android Studio, you're certainly welcome to do so. I can definitely install both on my system. I just won't be covering Android Studio. There's different nuances for doing things with Android Studio compared to Eclipse. Okay? And that's it for this little one.